marathon. I was so overwhelmed when the mileage started creeping up, and it was like, oh my gosh, we're doing 9 miles, we're doing 11 miles, we're doing 12 miles. And then the next week when we were tapering, I found myself saying, hey, we're only doing 8. And the sheer absurdity of that statement just made me laugh. But the progression is slow but consistent. And a lot of people struggled last Sunday with our long run and saying, oh my gosh, 8 miles was terrible. But next week, 8 miles won't be terrible. So
Well, I look at it just like anything else that you're having, you're kind of having to learn. Like, let's say you're going to learn a new language. You don't just immediately jump in and start conversing with somebody in a different language without taking the time to the little steps to progress up to being able to talk to somebody. Same thing with running. I remember when I ran my first half marathon, I don't know why, but the first 7 miles that we ran was the toughest run I'd ever done. And then the 8 after that was a little bit less tough. And it just, as time got on, my body got more and more used to the mileage and psychologically knowing what that was going to feel like. And so I think progressing up like that, it just prepares your body and your mind for what's coming. And then, like she said, when you get to that taper, it's like your body is primed and ready to run that last bit, which is the actual race. And so it's just getting your body used to being out there. We call it callousing, I guess, is the best way to put it, where you're just getting your feet, your knees, your hips, your upper body, and your head psychologically getting it ready to run the race.
The thing that I've noticed is that the numbers behind the runs have a huge psychological impact on people. You watch people you take people that are in the No Boundaries program, that's the couch to 5K. The idea of doing a 5K just seems massive to these people.
Yeah.
And by the time they're finished, they've done a 5K, and then you can introduce them to the idea of a 10K. But you watch them and they kind of freak out. You're like, you're asking me to go twice as far. And every time you up the mileage, there's always this immediate reaction like, how can I go that much farther? But when you do this slowly, everybody gets used to this. And so then they get through a 10K and then they think, well, I guess maybe I could do a half marathon. And then they do that, and then they start thinking about a marathon. I remember when I was thinking about doing my first one, 26.2, it seemed like 1,000 miles to me. I was sitting in a room listening to a talk, and I thought, there is absolutely no way I can run that far. How am I supposed to run 26.2 miles? The number just seems so massive. But by building people up slowly, you get them over all these little mental hurdles. And I think that's really one of the biggest pieces, is clearing those little mental hurdles about the mileage.
Yeah, I think one of the struggles that I have when I'm putting together the plan is that no one plan is going to be perfect for everyone, even though we have the different levels. So you really have to individually try to get as much as you can from that component of the day, whether it's a long run or speed workout, but really listen to your body. And if it's too much of a push, stop. I mean, how many of you guys saw the 400-meter world record the other night? The guy who said it, his grandma is his coach, so maybe we all need to get a grandma as a mentor. But one of the quotes that they said is, we listen to what his body says. If it says no, we stop or we go softer. And that just sounds so easy to think about, but it's really harder to practice. So the basic goal at the end of the 16 weeks is to be stronger than you are now. And you're not going to be stronger than you are now if you push too hard at one point and get injured. We're going to talk about it probably every 5 minutes along the way, is consistency. Mm-hmm. And so do whatever you can to maintain that, and then just know that on race day, you're strong enough to make it easier to finish, to make it easier to improve, or to make it easier to perform. I guarantee you, if you interviewed all the Olympic athletes, they would say that that's the most important thing. Sometimes I look at my best race results, and I go back to my training log, and I'm like, there was nothing spectacular about that, but it was just consistent, solid work. And even if you go out and do 12 miles as opposed to 15, it was still work. It's
right.
Not like it was nothing. And even if you don't have your best on a certain day, and I'm 5-10 seconds off per mile, big deal. You still pushed what your body gave you that day, and you got the same stress as you would have gotten had you been on a perfect day, but without overdoing it. But yeah, just consistent, solid work.